just to repeat what I've said, I've mixed two colours which represent the base colour of the plate and a sort of general light colour for the actual fruit itself. And those, obviously, if you look at them on the colour wheel, are complementary to one another. That's just by the by, but they are. And I'm also drawn very lightly on my page, just one of the fruit. I'm going to just rub away some of the graphite now so that I can just about see it, but not hardly. It's there enough. There's enough there for me to see a sky, and I'm afraid you won't be able to see very much of it. Once you've got your colours mixed then, and you've drawn your shape, the next thing you'll do, and I hope I'm not rushing you, Chris, but is to paint water over the shape that you've drawn. Just lightly dampen the paper, only within the line. Just keep it within the line. And then I'd like you to take some water on your brush, and by the side of it, just paint a square of water. Okay? I'm sorry, you won't be able to see mine because it's obviously, you know, the water itself is not really got a colour. Well, you might be able to see it, it's just pale blue. I'll just put this up here. Right, there it is. There's the square. And before we do the piece of fruit, what I'd like you to do is to dip your brush, well, dampen, just blot lightly that square, not too much, just to get the main wetness off it. If you hold it up to the light, it should look sort of matte rather than shiny. And then just put your brush into one of your colours. I'm going to start with the orangey one, and just paint a little area of the one side of that square just with that colour. See slightly the sort of sheen of the paper on mine, if you look at the screen, where the water is still not completely dry in that area. So I'm going to wash my brush, dry it, and then dip my brush into the other colour and paint some of that colour up to the orange on the wet paper or damp paper. And if it runs into the orange, that's fine. That's what it's meant to do. It shouldn't be, there should be something happening, basically, where the two colours meet. It should be bleeding into it, or fusing, this is really the correct name. If you've got a very wet area, like I have done, the bottom, you can always just pick up a little bit of that colour with your brush, providing it's been dried. Okay. Now what I hope you're seeing is that the two wet colours, as they fuse together, it's sort of like crystallizing, or crystals, isn't it? It's as if I've dropped some crystals down there. And but it's also creating something else. What is it creating? Can somebody tell me? What's happening?
A shadow.
Yeah, what else?
A mix of the two colours.
Yes, a mix of the two colours. So what are you getting in your mix?
A green, a greeny colour.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting as well. I just don't want to do all the talking all the time, so I want you to tell me what your experience is of allowing these two wet colours to fuse into each other. And it does appear that you automatically get a third colour, and sometimes even a fourth colour, depending on how you've done it. And it would be nice to see evidence of this in your painting. I think the danger is trying to control watercolour too much. There's also the aspect of losing control. But if you can have elements of this sort of real wet into wet, where the colours create a third or fourth colour without you actually doing it, I think you'd find it that the quality of the painting actually is very different. Right, now I'm going to have to, well, I think my fruit is still damp, and I'm going to start to work on that. I'm just going to do this one single piece of fruit, aiming to create something or some evidence of the fusing of where the shadow on the fruit is down the bottom as it comes up into the main part of the fruit where it's being hit by light. I'm going to see if I can fuse the colours in those areas and see what happens. I'd like you all to just experiment and see as well, please. So I'll let you just do that in your own time. If your fruit has gone very dry, I suggest you re-dampen it and then blot it a bit so it's not too wet. Mine's just gone a little bit dry. I think I'm going to just dampen it a fraction. And this aspect of wet into wet and judging when it's too wet or when it's just right is also something that takes a bit of practice and a bit of skill, I guess. So keep referring to what's in front of you and don't just slosh the colours on. Refer to what's in front of you and let that inform how much or how little paint you use of each of the colours. Now what I'm doing is dropping more orange over the top of the blue while it's still very wet. but I'm not pushing it around on the paper. I'm just literally dropping the colour in. And you can go back and do the same with the blue as well. You can drop little bits of blue over the orange or whatever two colours you're using.
I always find with mine it's difficult to remember to leave the white bits.
Yes, yes, it is. You can always at this stage though, Yvonne, get your paper towel like this. I don't know if you can see my paper towel. And, you know, if you want to bring the little light bits back, you can just present the, you know, a little tiny bit of your paper towel to the areas where you want the highlight, you know, just lift and let it sort of draw the colour off the page. Yeah?
Yes.
Like that. Can you see?
Oh, yes. You can never quite get it white again, can you, once you've made a mistake?
Well, I think that it doesn't have to be pure white because, in fact, you know, it is obviously affected by the colour of the fruit. And, you know, the fact that it may be just a sort of off-white probably will be more sympathetic to the subject, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you put a spotlight on these things, daylight isn't actually pure white, and the fruit is picking up colours from what's around it.
Okay, thank you.